Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to my journal. So the three topics for today are economic metrics, sources, and why they suck. And what was the third one going to be? Oh yeah, goddamn it, Japan. So let's get into it. So economic metrics. You may have noticed, unless you do live in a cave without Wi-Fi, or anybody visiting your cave. Well, frankly, probably a nuclear bunker is the only people who wouldn't know about this. There have been some economic downturns going on in the stock market, stemming from Trump's tariffs. So, I've talked about the tariffs before, why long term they might be for the best. But it really comes down to what numbers do you use to measure the economy? And this is really, really funny to me because historically, in my lifetime, the Democrats have been the ones saying, "Oh, well, the Wall Street doesn't represent Americans. Screw Wall Street. They're a bunch of bastard bankers who take from everybody else," which is true. Meanwhile, Republicans have been like, "Oh, well, the Wall Street makes resources get distributed somehow better in the economy, makes things more efficient, drives investment and innovation and stuff, like all that typical Wall Street stuff." And right now, so that's been the typical balance. Democrats screw Wall Street, Republicans, well, it's useful. And the sides switched. The sides on Wall Street switched over the past week. Now Democrats are all panicky about the stock market, and now Republicans are like, "Well, does it actually affect people? We deserve all those people to lose all their money. All the rich people getting screwed. This is good. This doesn't affect the regular person." So it's really, really funny to watch. Everybody will switch to whatever sides and whatever argument they're in to get a cheap political point. It's wonderful. It's fantastic. This is the reason why America can't ever get a dictator, by the way. We are all way too opportunistic to be ideologically committed enough to a dictator type. You think Trump's a dictator? He's not. An actual dictator would become a CEO. Jeff Bezos, for instance, probably would have been a dictator in some other country. Elon Musk probably too. A lot of them. But anyway, but we just have so many of those dictator types, and they're all stuck in the economy, and then the politicians do whatever. But anyway, there are different numbers you can use for the economy. Stock market price, where the stock market is. You have median income. You have average income. You can have the purchasing power parity. Like how much can your dollars really get you on an international basis? Housing availability. There's just so many different numbers you can go to. Unemployment is a big one. And nobody really knows. Basically, the mainline neoliberal establishment has been basing things off of the GDP number for the past 40 years, which is really good for them because it basically backs their chosen policies. However, a lot of people, particularly low-income people, have been basically struggling for the past 30 years and not doing too hot. Explosion of deaths of despair, unemployment, not enough money. A lot of people are doing badly from that. And then you see this in the in Great Britain too, where people are like, "Oh yeah, just invite all the immigrants in. It'll be great." And then people are like, "Well, I wanted to have a homeland. That's like something I wanted. I don't want to be a minority in my own country. That's like a reasonable take to have, right?" So it's basically what the Trump administration is doing is basically he switched the sides, as he does. He actually does that a good bit. And it's really funny to watch because I don't think nobody's really registering it that Trump is going for higher taxes in the form of tariffs, and basically saying screw you to GDP and Wall Street, all that. And instead of going for economic populism. Now, just because the GDP method wasn't good for the average person, that does not mean that the populist answer of mercantilism is a good answer. I don't know. I don't know if they had new answers, if this is going to be good or bad in the long term. I just don't know. I feel like it's not going to stick. I feel like we're just going to go back to the old way of doing things, and that's probably what's going to happen. Combined, maybe moderately lower tariffs. I don't think this is gonna have a big long term difference, but it might. It might crash the economy, and then unemployment rate goes to 50%. And I look really stupid, maybe. But anyway, but it also depends what sources you go to, which is my next topic for today. Sources is basically a way to kill an argument. A way to kill a good conversation is using sources. Because I was having a conversation with my best friend the other day about the same thing, the Ragnarok theory, um, of where I think Ragnarok might have come from the mini ice age in the 6th century, possible. And so we go back and forth a lot, and it's great. But eventually, it gets to the point where she's like, "Oh well, what are you? You need to be able to cite an actual archaeologist." And it's like I don't know the archaeologist's names offhand. It's a theory. It's fun to talk about, right? And just shouting sources is stupid. Sources are great when you're used to expand conversation, to talk about more things, to have a conversation, to like explore. Because none of us are professionals, right? And I'm not going to live in a world where I have to reference anything I think to somebody else. I will not enslave my mind to an establishment, what of any kind. Not very Catholic of me, by the way. I am Catholic, but it's, everybody has these tensions in their worldview. But I'm not going to enslave my mind to somebody else's establishment and just say they said that so much, so it's true. No, absolutely not. If you can't argue your point is worth nothing. In my opinion. But I think that's a very common problem today, is because I think people like me tend to be on more of the spectrum of tend to be more on the spectrum of, hey, let's argue it out. Let's think about it. Let's have a random idea. Let's throw out things. I think Democrats are more likely to be like, oh, well, the smart people said this, so it must be true, and I'm just going to agree with whatever the smart people say because they tell me that they're right. It's like, okay, that's a very uneducated opinion, especially given all of we know that the institutions you're getting sources from are ideologically captured. You have to be really, I think there were good points on both sides, Republican and Democrat, and sometimes they switch sides and nobody notices, as I discussed in my previous segment. That happens a lot, by the way. But that said, I think that Democrats tend to control the institutions. If you look at the voting patterns of professors or academic types, and the reason is not necessarily gatekeeping, even though I certainly think gatekeeping is a big problem in academic institutions. There's no way you get 90% of one party unless there's some gatekeeping going on. But it's also due to the type of people that go into these institutions. You see, academia, like music or art or Hollywood or similar fields, is basically a lottery system approach to finding a life path. Because the odds of success are astronomically low to be successful. So it kind of attracts people who think that passion and that following your dreams is basically a good idea. Meanwhile, Republicans tend to be more the type of, hey, I'm going to be an accountant or a mechanical engineer or a plumber, something with less of a range of success, because if you're an okay plumber, you do okay. And that's also what you see in the economic data. Republicans hover more in the middle class. Republicans and Democrats have the same median income, missing by about $3,000 or $4,000, but it's close. Democrats range wildly more in the favor of the very rich people and the very poor people. Republicans are more centered in the middle because of the type of choices they make. The go for your dreams approach is actually really probably a better approach to becoming doing well in a celebrity field. So that's why professors and stuff, one reason why professors and stuff tend to lean blue, and plus gatekeeping is going on. But it's really hard to have a conversation with somebody if it's like, I'm not even even if it's a non-political topic, like Ragnarok or whatever. It basically just swallows up any kind of actual cool ideas you can have. I mean, if you put things in a box, you don't see anything outside the box. So I'm against the using sources in any kind of non-academic conversation. Like if it's an academic conversation, maybe writing a paper or an essay or something, sure, have your sources. But nobody actually talks like that, or shouldn't anyway, because it kills conversations. Finally, so that's shoot. What's my final topic? I really wish they'd show the symmetric sources. And oh, goddamn it, Japan! I keep getting back to it. Found a new same friend I was hanging out with her. We found a new anime called "The World's Greatest Assassin" with Isekai or something. I haven't heard anybody talk about it as an anime, and it is good. It is basically it's basically an American assassin gets isekai'd into another world with his memories and stuff, and it's actually really, really good. Really good fight choreography. Like the characters actually use tactics when they're fighting, which is really cool. You don't. It's not just like I'm at level 11,000. You're at level 9,000. I win. No, it's like a really clever fights going on. Really clever magic system. They introduce chemistry and actual science. So, for instance, they use magic to manipulate metal or whatever. And he's like, well, if I move 2 protons and 2 neutrons in this lead item, I can produce gold. So it's basically alchemy, but they're using the molecular mass and stuff to do transmutations. So I guess similar, but more scientific to, similar to Fullmetal Alchemist, but it just used so rarely to have that level of like detail in the magic system. It's really, really well done. It's really nice, you know. Opening credits are great, ending credits are great. Really, really good. Gun-kun. Yay, Gun-kun. Guns in the Isekai. This is great. Nobody does this. But then it's just like there's like a few moments, and they're getting more common as you go through the series, where you're like, God damn it, Japan. Like, he's a kid in these isekai, and he's sweeping next to like the mentor kid, and it's just like, God, dude, come on, guys, like, it's just uncomfortable. And then nothing bad happens, you know. Nothing bad ever happens. It's just weird. And there's a scene where like there's a lot of scenes. I'm not gonna like go into it because I feel kind of weird talking about it. But it's just why you watch this. It's like this is why I can't recommend this to anybody. And it's like every anime is like this, where it's like, oh, solo leveling. Oh, I'd like to recommend this. No, can't do that. Oh, Goblin Slayer. Nope. It's like there's so many things that make it so I can't recommend it to like non-anime people without seeming weird, right? But in some ways that's good because it's kind of protected anime and Japanese media in general from the whole all the millennials made things boring because they were offended by everything. That's what millennials are. Millennials are all the people who are offended by everything. And it just and so you have to have a tiny bit of an open mind to go on the anime side. Now it is weird, like politically, the demographic of anime nerds split wildly. Men went a lot of them were like pretty far right, and a lot of the women are pretty far left. And sometimes they go to the same conventions and stare awkwardly at each other. It's great, but it does make it difficult to share media and stuff with other people sometimes, and that kind of is unfortunate. Really good anime though. It's a different take on things. It's always interesting to have an American, instead of like you always have some dork loser guy be isekai to the other realm. And this is why this is a complete Chad assassin, awesome dude. And basically, he lived his whole life according to believing in the company in his real world life. And then this one, he's going to be more emotional and have family and all that kind of stuff. So it's a neat topic. I'm looking forward to watching more. I was kind of like in the mood for something a little bit darker, which is good. And it's also still just fun. But anyway, I recommend that anime. I'm going to be watching it more. And also, I don't want to watch like actual dark anime like ReZero, which I'm getting through. It's good, but anyway, that's the topic I'm going to talk about. Economic metrics, sources suck, and a cool new anime that I watched. Anyway, I hope you all have a good day, and I'm going to cheers.